Fitness is a marathon, not a sprint. This is an expression you usually hear people who've been in the fitness game for a very, very long time that we tend to tell people. And again, oftentimes falls on deaf ears. And a perfect example when it comes to everything from training and progressive overload to even weight loss. For example, I've had people who say, wow, Jason, you're doing this cut. It's taken a really long time. And it's like, that's a good thing. In fact, if you look at all the research that's out there, the best thing you could possibly do for long-term weight management, the very best thing you could possibly do is to cut as slowly as possible. That's not someone saying that to be lazy. That's actually looking at the evidence of people who study the morbidly obese. This is what registered dietitians and clinical researchers all say. The faster you lose body fat, the more likely you are to rebound. Now, when you get into the whole bodybuilding and fitness world, that's not seen as a bad thing, though, is it? Right? Because they don't care about rebounding. You have things like bodybuilders, they cut for a show. The problem is that, these bodybuilders are now the examples that everyone uses for online fitness. These are people who cut every single year for a show. And then they rebound and they regain 30 pounds. Their weight loss methods are the weight loss method that you would use if your goal is to regain 30 pounds after. How's that for letting reality sink in? The truth is, it's better to take an entire year or a year and a half or 2 years sometimes to reach a body fat goal. And some people say, well, that's ludicrous. I want to be ripped or cut right now. You're like, well, you're going to rebound. You're not going to stay that way. So taking time to do something and losing a pound at a time has actually been shown to help you maintain it better because you don't binge. You don't have big rebound periods. You make small changes that over time become habit. You retain muscle better. You can improve performance better while continuing to lose body weight. All right? And that's the whole idea. So that's why, for me, for example, it took 9 months to drop 40 pounds. And then I'm saying, hey, it'll take 8 or 9 months to drop the next 20. Not that big of a deal. Not worried about it. I'm going to continue to regain old muscle and performance while doing so. Again, a slow process. But that's just one thing. That's just me. But that's true for everybody. It's true for everybody. Everyone wants everything right now. Everyone wants everything right now. They want to make big changes to their program. Do you want to know what most novice lifters need to change workout to workout? Small changes in the weight on the bar. 5 pounds, 2.5 pounds. That's all you need to change. Do you know why? Because that is actually a fast increase. That is a fast increase because when you get more advanced, you're never going to be able to do that again. Enjoy it while it lasts. But the point is that the human body responds really well to small changes. Tiny day-to-day changes are what the human body and the human machine thrives on. It absolutely thrives on that because if you make changes that are small enough for us to adapt to it seamlessly, the human organism is an amazing machine that will respond to that. In other words, tiny changes in your training programming done consistently can yield enormous results. You don't need to shock your body. You don't need to confuse your body. And again, I think people can misunderstand when you'll see advanced lifters or someone like me who every few months we might rotate through programs. That's a little bit different. We adjust our programming. Well, we might even do concurrent periodization to where we're actually doing something different every time we're at the gym. But what are we doing? We're pre-planning that. That's a planned event because unfortunately for someone who has years of training under their belt, who's built an enormous base, any change and to disrupt homeostasis requires a lot of work. In other words, the amount of work and time that it would take for an advanced lifter to get the same results that a novice lifter could do in a week Might take us a year. It might take us an entire year worth of planning and work to do what they can do in a week or a month. And that's just reality, because muscle and strength are resistant to change as you get more advanced. But even then, it's still about the small changes. But when you're dealing with people who are not ultra advanced strength athletes or someone like that, the little changes add up. We adapt. And I would suggest to most of you that if you look at it from that perspective, you don't ever need to make big changes in your program. You don't need to. Make one change at a time. Make one change at a time. Make one change in anything regarding your performance different at a time. Don't add 3 new exercises in the same week. Add one new accessory movement somewhere to the mix. Rotate out one exercise. Make one adjustment to your programming protocol. For most people, that's all you need, those little changes. Because over time, the little changes accumulate into big changes. And I honestly think that's the best way for people to go about this. Because again, everyone gets in such a rush. And I'm not saying you shouldn't try to maximize results. I'm saying anything but. What I'm saying is that the human body has a limited amount of adaptations it can make in any given time. And if you want to make the most of those adaptations, you need to work within those confines. So that can mean something as simple as changing an exercise by 2.5 pounds every time you go to the gym. Adding 1 rep here, 1 rep there. If you can do those things consistently, over time, that will equal enormous changes. But people need to understand, nothing that works rapidly happens for free. In other words, if you lose body fat rapidly, it's usually going to come at the expense of lost muscle, lost performance, negative effects on your health, your energy, your mood, and you're going to have a higher chance of rebounding. When you try to do things that are cause you to gain muscle super fast, the only way to gain muscle super fast is with drugs. Well, drugs can come at a price too. When you see anyone who's made this amazing transformation in a short period of time, there's usually Photoshop involved or an entire anabolic drug and fat burning cocktail involved. It's usually not, oh, they went on some steroids. No, it's usually more than that. If it's a dramatic transformation, there's tons of people who use steroids who aren't that impressive. In fact, the majority of steroid users aren't that impressive. No, they've done something usually extreme to see an extreme change. Or they're a hyper responder to the drugs. But for everyone else, you need to accept that. You're not going to gain enormous slabs of muscle in a short period of time. You're just not. You need to have realistic expectations of it. You need to understand that your changes you make day to day in the gym impact that. And shocking the body doesn't actually work. It's not going to work. For those of you who are drug-free or even very conservative users of drugs, shocking your body isn't going to work. You don't need to shock your body with anything extreme. You need to gradually increase workload. You need to gradually increase workload. You need to focus on the basics. And you need to focus on gradual changes over time in the basics. And you need to accept that major changes to your body and performance and physique take a long time, particularly if you want them to last. I mean, you look at some of the examples of guys who I use as examples, like Nicola Ella or Devin Palumbo, some of my friends, who a lot of you guys are just like, wow, for naturals, those guys are absolutely amazing. So you guys will say that, then you need to understand those guys weren't where they are now after only 5 years of training. You're talking about guys with over a decade of hard, consistent work. It paid off, but they're perfect examples of fitness is a marathon, not a sprint. It has to be about lifestyle, guys. That's what it comes down to. All of this, no matter what your fitness or athletic or physique goals, it is going to be about changes in your lifestyle over time. And the less dramatic those changes are at any given time, the more likely you are to adhere to them. And that's the other point with it. People hear this whole lifestyle thing like, well, I don't want to make changes in lifestyle. Exactly, no one does. But if those changes are gradual enough on a day-to-day basis, you actually won't mind them. And you're more likely to stick them out, and you're more likely to stay motivated. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.